Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to do a reading of finally. The energy today is feeling, actually, the last 2 days, is feeling really interesting to me, and I've been trying to feel into it. I've just got back from a trip to Colorado visiting family, and so I was sort of out of my element and just kind of, yeah, out of my rhythm and out of my element and stuff like that. So it was hard for me to like read energies to be really, or to be clear about like what was me and what was the collective. And so anyway, today, my second day home, I'm having all this clarity about what is going on. And it's interesting because before I left, I had a feeling that something was going to shift during the time that I was gone. And when I came home, I was going to feel completely different. And so that was showing up in just the way I read energy. Anyways, what was going on in my hologram, like there were a lot of things that were kind of in the queue that were wrapping up like right before we left. And not because we planned it that way, just because that's how it was landing, where it was like, oh, there's nothing on the ledger anymore. There's nothing on the list. Like it's all done. We've taken care of it all. So who knows what we'll be working on when we get back. But the other thing I have been hearing other people talking about, I can't remember the details because again, I was traveling and I was a little dysregulated and just not like really able to tune into even what I was reading. But somebody else was talking about a shift happening from, I think it was Laura Hazel. I think she was talking about a shift from the 30th of April, I said October, 30th of April into May 1st. And so other people talking about that as well. And I didn't track it at the time we left. We flew home on the 2nd. But anyway, now here I am. And so what I've been feeling, so the way it presented to me, the way it came in, is I feel like there's like fluid and like everything feels really fluid to me. Like I feel fluid. I feel like I just got out of hot springs, when you're like super, super relaxed. I'm feeling like that constantly, even though I'm like still kind of stiff and like I have all my like body stuff. I feel like just an energy of like I'm embodying something very fluid. I feel it in the air. So I was saying to my friend, like my house feels so holy right now. It feels like I feel like there could be like fish swimming in the air, or mermaids, or it feels like a real Lemurian type of energy. First I thought it was just in my house, and then I realized, wait, it's in my body. And then today I went out, I had to shop, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna see if it's just if it's just transmitting, and from me, or if it's everywhere. And I feel it everywhere. I feel it everywhere. Everything feels different. People seem to be moving slower. There were like these little girls in the co-op, and they were like hugging, and nothing like any different than what I normally see, but it just felt different. Everything feels different. And so then I remembered when I was tuning into the energy and how I would describe it. It was like liquid, like oil. It was liquid, but it was moving like oil. And I remembered this session that I had. It was probably like 6 or 7 years ago. It was a long time ago, and I was working with this woman, and I felt this energy that I had never felt before. Certainly not in a session. I don't know if I had ever felt it within myself or the world. I didn't register it, but I described it to her as like moving uh, like light that's liquid, that light that's liquid, and it moves like oil. It's like thick liquid. And as I was describing it, I heard the word, I found myself saying plasma. It's like plasma. Well, I didn't know anything about plasma. I'd heard the word before in passing, but I never thought about it, and I didn't know anything about it. So I was just like, oh, maybe I just pulled that out of my ass, but often when something comes through that I don't understand, then like later it will make sense. Okay, so finally, like 6 or 7 years later, it finally makes sense. So then I remembered, after I remembered, oh, okay, so this energy I'm feeling is like a plasma like energy. Okay, so then I remembered the maybe like a week before I left on my trip, so maybe like a week and a half ago, or 2 weeks ago, I woke up in the morning and I heard the words plasma transforming into light body. And I was like, oh, okay, and there was like a visual before it happened. It was like definitely like a spirit communication type of thing. And I was just sort of like, I was like, okay, that's, we'll just see. We'll see what synchronicities come in. So the very next day, or maybe 2 days later, I was visiting with the same woman who I had that, I just realized it was the same woman who I'd had that session with the plasma, that had the plasma energy in her body. And she was telling me about this Pam Gregory video with this, I'll post it in the comments, or I could do it in the description box actually on YouTube, but I can post it in the comments on Facebook. So if you, in case you're interested, so it was Pam Gregory, and she was having this talk with this young man, and he was like very scientifically minded, but he was like a space weather genius. So he put things together in different ways, and I was learning a lot. But he was talking about plasma. So right after I had this communication, never really understood what plasma was. And what he was saying is it's the fourth phase of matter, and it's very high frequency. So and what he said is that the plasma is what is emitted to us through the sun. So we had just had, I think it's been about a month now, we had a very large coronal hole, the largest coronal hole that apparently, like some of the space weather people that I listened to, they had said that it's the largest they had ever seen. And so it's really huge coronal hole. So this was about a month ago, and I think I was talking about this in maybe like 2 readings ago. And for me, it like really dysregulated my nervous system. And I felt like just like any noise or any movement, I couldn't go out. Everything felt like nails on the chalkboard, and it really hit me, in my nervous system, and in terms of like an energetic disorientation. Okay, so that was going on, and then we kind of like steadied from that, and then everything was feeling really good. Well, then I had that dream, or I had that communication in the morning. And then I found out about the plasma. Well, then I found out that we had another very large coronal hole, another one. And so, with the solar winds, the really high solar winds, and then the geomagnetic storming that comes in, it's spitting this plasma on us. And so what he was saying is that the plasma is super, super high frequency. And so the way I understood it was it's almost like structured water. Like if you put structured water into tap water, it'll structure the water around it, because the most coherent frequency is the one that dominates. So, a higher frequency, anything is going to be closer to unity consciousness, closer to the truth of reality. So if you put that into a denser reality, it's going to structure that denser reality and start to break it up and to bring it towards, because again, it dominates the more whole or unity, the consciousness, the vibration that's closer to the truth of reality is going to dominate, because the linear, the dense, the separation consciousness, the energy of exile, I keep getting exile in the readings, this energy of separation, that's the densest, and it's a lie, and it's not true, and it's confusion. And so the other thing that's really interesting is we just went into Pluto retrograde today, which I didn't know. But my friend told me, and it was like, okay, this is all matching up now that I'm like getting the download. Because Pluto is the very same thing. Pluto comes along and pushes us into our shadow, pushes us into really the heart of that separation. All the distortions and the traumas and the dysfunctions that are running in our system because of the illusion of separation, the densest of consciousness, it's shining a light on it, which is exactly what the plasma from the sun is doing, exactly what these coronal holes and the solar flares, but lately it's been the coronal holes, have been spitting this higher frequency plasma on us. That's Pluto. Pluto is like time for transformation. And so it's all happening. It's all happening at this time where we're shedding the density, we're being reconfigured, restructured. So the plasma transforming into a light body. It's transforming our bodies. It's transforming our light bodies, clicking our light bodies on. So again, it's like however you look at it, whether you're looking at it through the astrology or you're looking at it through space weather or cosmic understanding or psychic perception or just feeling the energy, it's all pointing to the same thing. So really, really interesting. And so, but that it literally feels like that. It literally feels like there's more plasma in the air. Like I feel like I could just like clump something and throw it and move something across the street. It's like everything feels really thick. We're also in Taurus right now, and Taurus is very sensual, very embodied. And so I often get into like blissful or ecstatic states, and it's really like electrical, like Uranus type of like electrical energy. But this is feeling more magnetic. It's feeling more embodied. It's feeling more thicker and sensual. And so that's that Taurian energy as well, where you're really in your, like I'm noticing the leaves are out on my trees because it's May. I'm in the northern hemisphere. So springtime, and the leaves are out on my trees, and they're dancing and they're moving and they're putting shadows on my floor certain times a day, and it's just that like the flowers are blooming, that sensual feminine energy. But it's not just, I'm curious if you're in the southern hemisphere, if you're feeling this too, because it's definitely related to the retrograde of Pluto, and definitely related to the plasma, the literal plasma that's coming into our atmosphere and that's affecting our bodies, activating our light bodies, purging our emotional and our mental, and bringing up those dark nights of the soul and those shadow recognitions for those of us that have been really maybe signed up to kind of crawl through the sewers for the last however long, 5, 10, 15 years. We're kind of in a stable space and kind of holding and maybe feeling the changes, feeling the shifts on the other side of that shadow work. And for those of us that that have a bit of catch up to do, or maybe have had really busy lives, or just been, kind of in the grind, are now being presented with the space and the opportunity, but also like the orders, like it's time now, it's time to go in. And so that's the other thing that I'm noticing. A lot of people are having something that shakes up their daily routine, in big and small ways. For me, it was just traveling, being out of my element. But injury or sickness or death of a loved one or something like that, but something that just shakes you up at the foundation, and that's the Plutonian energy as well. Pluto wants you to get your foundations in order. So Pluto, I'm a Capricorn. Pluto went into Capricorn in 2009, and that was the year that I just knew, like unequivocally, that I needed to leave my marriage that I had been needing to leave for 7 years. It was like, it's time, and Pluto's like, I'm going to help you. I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to show you exactly where to look. It's going to be tough love, but we're going to break down and tear up anything that's in the way of you having your solid container, your solid energy. So this is what we've been talking about in the last couple readings, is like, being aware of and cutting out any distractions or energy leaks, because the energy leaks leave you susceptible to mind control or an entity attack, or playing out patterns, trauma patterns, repeating trauma patterns where they keep coming up again and again and again, because we're not only are we on that frequency, we're in that mindset where we keep attracting them, but it's also that tough love where it's like, we're going to throw it at you one more time. What are you going to do with it this time? So there's a lot of that return of things to get you to look at it differently, which should be easier now, because the frequencies, again, we have all this plasma energy flowing around. So whether it's your time to tune into that yet or not, it's there supporting you, because it is, again, it's a higher frequency. It's the fourth phase of matter, I learned. So it's that higher frequency. It's all around. So it's assisting us. It's not like in this dense reality before, when the Pluto retrogrades would happen, and it might have taken like, a really long time, or taken till it hit you in your sign, your direct sign, like me with a Capricorn, to really kick you into gear. But there's a lot of support right now for this movement, for this cleanse, for this alchemy, for the shadow dance, for the spiritual awakening, for coming back home, releasing the trauma patterns, and finally being free to live from your own essence, your own soul signature, your own unique divine expression of the oneness that we all are. So, all right, I'm going to move into the cards. 12 minutes. 1, 2, 3. I just saw 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow. Yeah, I'm seeing all the numbers I've been seeing, like 12, 12, and like the progression numbers. So like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, which I just saw, where it's like we're moving forward, we're jumping along. So let's see what this is. Oh, Fox Spirit. Think on your feet. Well, that's interesting. That kind of goes with what I was just saying. It's a 9, number 9, 2, and 7 collapsing into 9. So that is a number as well of you're almost there, like persevere, keep going, keep moving, and just think on your feet. It's not going to come from your linear mind. It's going to come from an instinct, from a gut, from a, almost like, and again, that Plutonian energy can be kind of like Uranus in a way, where it hits you on a deep level. Like Uranus comes out of nowhere and hits you, but Pluto kind of like bubbles up from inside, and so there's that fire energy with a fox, where it's like you're just gonna know what to do when it's time to do it, that being in the moment. And that's a lot with that plasma fluidity as well. We're very in the moment, we're very embodied. That energy is there to tap into, it's there to assist you and guide you. So okay, so let's pull some tarot and see what else comes out for this. All right. Okay, the page of water. Let me clarify that. The page of water is like a first step. It's like dipping your toes in the water, but it also, I often think of it as the minor, the lower octave of the full card, where you're childlike, you're innocent, you're and again, she's a mermaid. You can see her little tail there. So there's that sort of Lemurian mermaid energy again. So it's interesting, because pages are about new beginnings, and they're about the very beginning of something. And this is the energy that I'm feeling with that plasma energy. And it is that watery, like I was saying, the fish swimming in my house, and the mermaid energy, where this is a new frequency, a new level of consciousness that we're stepping into. And we're just starting. But again, it's like the full energy, where you just kind of have to just step off that cliff and trust and like it's beginner's mind. We're not familiar with this energy. We don't know what we're doing. Like me today, I was like, what is this? What is this? And I started just opening up to it and asking it questions and then getting information and then even like taking it downtown with me, like, are you coming or are you only in my house? And like, oh, can I feel it? That kind of thing. We're exploring it. We're exploring it with a very open, innocent, I don't know type of mind. So let's see what else. Let's see what else clarifies for this. Okay. The Two of Swords. That's interesting because this is the Two of Swords is a card of, often it's a card of like being stuck between a rock and a hard place where you don't know which way to go. So that kind of makes me, that kind of ties in this think on your feet where I was saying it's not going to be like a linear thing because the swords are very much about the mind. They're very much often about the program, the linear, what the mind wants to do. The mind wants to be in control, and especially if this is a very, very new terrain. And that's the other thing that's interesting because the Lemurian energy is like we've all been there before. I would think most of us, especially those of us that are here kind of on the cutting edge or that are aware or wanting to bridge to this new consciousness, we've been there before. So it's an energy that we recognize and we can tune into it. But in Lemurian times, we hadn't fallen yet. We hadn't gone through the fall. So we just were unified. We didn't know what it was like to be separate. Now we're starting to come back into that unity, but after going through extreme separation, we're coming out of Kali Yuga. So we pulled the arrow back as far as we could go, as far back into separation as we could go. We had light over here and dark over here, so we knew exactly what they looked like. And I was thinking about that, like what an interesting journey that we did where they were together and we're like, let's see what happens when we take them apart. And then it's like, whoa, you can really see what darkness is and you can really see what light is when they're separate, and of course they're meant to be together, and that's how we move forward and that's how we create and that's how we stay connected to all that is, because all that is together. But that experiment or that experience of having them separate was pretty righteous. So now that we're bringing them back together, we're coming back to this sort of Lemurian energy, but with the awareness and with the integration of what it's like to have fallen or to have things separated or to understand just the one and the other. And so it's very new. We've never done that before, even though this energy is familiar. It's familiar. And there's something I feel to say, like, if you're not used to attuning to the behind or attuning to the subtle energies, it's kind of like what we were talking about a few readings ago when it was like the earth calling. I forget what I titled it, but how like if when you are in nature, you can access that sort of like telluric, like elemental field through appreciation and through beauty and through the present moment and through just appreciating nature and looking at it as if it's like a beloved, and like you're so like in awe of its beauty, and then it opens to you. And it's the same thing with anything else that we want to tune into. If we want to tune into the sort of the atmospheric energy, like what energies are coming into our realm, the gamma rays or the plasma or is it solar energy or is it cosmic energy? Just kind of like what I was saying, like just sensing something and being like just turning towards it. It's like what we would do with like science or math. Like we turn towards it, we give it our focus, but we can give our focus and we can unpack these subtle things. Okay, so it's interesting I'm saying that because before I learned about it was after I had the words come through and say plasma transforming into light body, and then I learned about the plasma. Well, then I found out we had this huge coronal hole. Okay, and so I started having really, really, really intense body symptoms, and I haven't had body symptoms, energetic body symptoms in a while. I had them for almost an entire year. I thought I was dying back in 2022, I think it was. Right at the end of 22 maybe and into 23, I can't remember, somewhere around there. And so and then it's been very mild once I finally acclimated, and I got hit really, really hard. And I was just about to go on this trip, and I was really, really hot. I was so hot. I didn't have a fever, but I was really hot. I was dizzy. I was nauseous. I was really, really tired. I felt really out of it. I had headaches and neck pain, which I've had all these symptoms before. So I knew it was an energy thing. But I was a little bit upset because I was about to go on this trip, but I was like, no, I got the intel, plasma transforming into light body, like this is important, and it's important because anytime we're around family, we're doing lineage work and we're clearing things, and it's like I was getting an upgrade right before I went, and so I just surrendered to it. But that night before I went, literally, I drove down to the desert house, and we were getting a ride out to the airport, my kids and I, the next day, and I was like tossing and turning all night long, sweating, hot and cold, nauseous, dizzy, and I was having these dreams, and in the dreams, oh, it was so intense. I was almost like afraid because it was such an intense energy. I didn't know how to hold it, and there was one point where I was shown like the core root of the core of the separation wound for me, and I wanted to look away, but I was like too altered to look away. I had to look at it, and I was telling myself, like just stare at it, just stare at it. You don't have to know what to do with it. Just stare at it and like dissolve it with your fiery gaze. Just dissolve it. And it's like one of those moments where it's like when you're in that kind of shadow work where you just know what to do. You hear that voice, you have that instinct. It's like just don't look away. So you just don't look away, and you don't have to know what to do. Again, you don't have to know what to do, and that's what this is. The Two of Swords is like you feel stuck, you don't know what to do, but that's the linear mind doesn't know what to do. The soul, the part of us that I think I'm looking at the wrong. I always look at the wrong camera part, so I'm trying to train myself to look up some. It's like more like I'm looking in your eyes, but anyway, shit. What was I saying? Yeah, it's like we're so the linear mind wanting to know what to do. We're kind of training ourselves to surrender and to think on our feet and to trust that we will know what to do when it's time to do it, right? So again, trusting, being in that beginner's mind, opening, okay? And that's how we move out of that stuck space, because sometimes if we're in that stuck space and we're in our head, then we can't clear the energy. We can't move it, we can't clear it. So when I got it, like, just look at it. You don't have to know what to do. And then I realized later, like, oh, it was just the fire of my consciousness, just the fire of my willingness to be present with that thing that like I've been running from. It doesn't even have to be like something that we're aware of. It can just be an energy of like, oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. Like, oh, that's that thing that I don't, and you just like let the consciousness, again, that structured water. Your consciousness, when you're present and that's that plasma and beyond, where it's that very high frequency, and it's just structuring your water. So you use your consciousness to stare in those dark. This is Pluto energy. This is Pluto retrograde. I have Scorpio North Node, so that's, Plutonian energy, and the North Node is how we evolve and how we move forward and how we grow. And so I'm just like all about, the Kali and the fire and the transformation and the death and the rebirth, and I've been doing it my whole life, right? So I'm a good one to talk about this because I really get it, right? But so again, that high frequency, the purity of our consciousness, just gazing, just not looking away from the thing that we want to look away from. Again, the shadow work, the Pluto retrograde that's forcing us into those closets and opening them up, and just stand in there and just let the light of your willing present self to gaze into that room. I had a dream about that once. I was in a house. I have this haunted house. I don't dream of it anymore. I think this was when I broke the dream. I broke the pattern, but I used to like go into the house and be like, oh my God, that's haunted, and I would avoid the room. Oh God, isn't that funny? Of course, no wonder this dream came to me. I didn't remember until I started talking. I would avoid the room. So in this dream, I was sleeping in the room. And there was this snake that kept coming, and it kept biting my foot. It kept biting my foot and biting my foot. And I identified it with my ex. So this was a while ago. I identified it with my ex, okay? And he was biting my foot and biting my foot. And finally, I was just like, oh my God, like I can't keep laying here, like letting the snake bite my foot. Like it's just, I can't sleep, and it's fucking scary. And so I noticed that there was this door that was open over on my left side, okay? The feminine, the soul, the intuition, and there was a light, and the energy there was like that structured water again, that it was a higher frequency. There was light there. And where I was darker and denser. I was in my shadow, and so I went towards that light, and I went into that room, and my ex was sitting in the room. And this was before we transcended everything. It was really dark, really, 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 really dark. He was like my arch enemy for 12 years, and it was really, really bad. It was like if they're not to, this is an appropriate way to say it. It was like extreme dark and extreme light, and we were battling. We were like such a perfect fractal of like the spiritual war that's going on. And we've since dissolved it all back into unconditional love. But this was before we did that. This was right when I was learning how how to do that. I was starting to be guided. Anyway, I went into that room and he was in there sitting in the light. And I remember being like, wait, it feels really good in here. And it feels light, but you're here. And like, what do I do? And it was just, I just stayed. And I sat down with him and I sat in that light and I sat in my acceptance. So it's just like the perfect example. And I never had that dream about that haunted house again. But so anyway, this other night that, right before I left for my trip and I was dreaming and I was having all those things, I had that thing and I did that with the light of my consciousness. And then I started having these dreams where it's interesting about the snake because I was going into this like spaceship and I was going somewhere and I was the one, hi Boudica. I was the one that was it was almost like what you hear about like space travel where in where they actually fly the ships through their consciousness. I was going to fly the ship and it was like, I was like the battery. I was like the one that had to do that, but it like wasn't quite time yet. Okay. And so then I was like walking towards the spaceship. That's what it felt like. It felt like a spaceship to me. I've had like many spaceship dreams where like everything's really, really enclosed. I don't know how to describe it. Maybe you've had these dreams too. But anyway, there was a snake coming towards me. It was coming towards me and it was like the snake and I had telepathy and we were like part of the same tribe or something. It was like really intense dream. But there were other dreams where it was more telepathy where I was watching something and I would feel the energy of it and then I would see the energy in physical form. So my perception was heightened and my abilities were heightened. And so that's the other thing. And I forget, there was something I was going to say and why I thought to bring that up. I think it might have to do with the plasma as we attune to I know what it was. So attuning to the subtle energies behind where, because we're all here available for us, but our consciousness has been so sequestered into the mundane world and into the like survival world. You know, you got to go through this and this and this to survive. And we've been distracted from like the wealth of energy that's available to us, not only to help us to clear the shadow and the illusion of separation so that we can come back into the truth where we have our powers. And that's what the dream was about. I was coming back into more of my powers, back into more access, more of the behind, right? But just building that muscle and training our focus to go towards the behind. So same thing like with what I was saying in nature, like just appreciating, like kind of feeling how you feel in your body and being like, what is that? And what's a little bit different? And what's the quality of it? How does it feel? You know, and then like appreciating it and unpacking it and then like finding adjectives for it, describing it, you know, and having a conversation with it. It's like, it's how we attune ourselves and become acclimated to this realm that we're moving into. And again, it's very, very new. And a lot of how we're doing that is in the moment and thinking on our feet where we just trust. And that's what this is as well. Trusting. Trust is very childlike. You're naive, but you're just naive in a very safe energy. You're not naive and trusting in the false world that wants to eat you alive and take your money and make you a slave. You're trusting in the true reality, the love frequency, the God frequency, and that is safe to trust there. It is safe to surrender, but what you're trusting is yourself. You're trusting your own communication, your own language, your own intuition, which is interesting because we have Aries and Chiron right now collectively. I have Aries and Chiron in my personal chart. And so it's all about trusting your instincts, which this is a very Aries energy. You know, this is very, very, you know, the pilgrim, you're out on the edge and here's the edge, you know, the page out on the edge in the waterland with the plasma, the Lemurian return, and you're the pioneer. You're the pioneer, and you're trusting your gut. You're trusting your instinct. You're trusting your heart. You're trusting yourself. You're trusting what you get. This is the energy of not knowing where to go. If you don't know where to go, it's like you're like, well, I don't know whether to listen to this voice outside of my head or this voice in my head. This is the epitome of separation consciousness, where your intuition speaks and your action, your inner feminine, your intuition speaks. Your action oriented inner masculine says, well, I don't know if I can listen to that because that's you know, like the analogy, like you might get us killed, you know, that's the analogy I always use. I don't know if I can listen to you, you're crazy, you know. And then this one saying like, hey, you know, I have something to say, but nobody's listening, so maybe I am crazy, you know, and just that, right? That's what this is, the bind. And so it feels like this is an energy that we could be in, or people could be in, as we embark into this new energy, right? That I got a glimpse of, and everybody can get a glimpse of it, right? When you surrender the mind and you trust your heart and your knowing and your gnosis and the information that you get. Like, we all have different words. Like for me, those words that came through plasma transforming into light body, like those are words that, I have some reference for. Even if I didn't, then I had synchronicities that came along that helped me flesh out the glossary, my soul glossary that was coming. You might have completely different words or completely different way of understanding it. Again, we could look at it through astrology, we could look at it through solar weather, we could look at it through our relationships and what's happening and decode it that way. And stuff like that, and reading it, but decoding your soul language and learning it and trusting it and knowing that it's all yours, and it's meant to be all yours because you're the only one holding that specific spark, that specific fraction of fractal of divinity that only you can play. So only you can get your information for yourself, and to trust what you get, and to know that you don't have to be like, oh, I believe everything I say, because we know we still have some shadow, we still have some infiltration, we still have some fear, some all that, but you can at least be like, okay, I heard that, and I'm going to wait until the pieces flush in, and then keep your eye and your ear out for them. And when you hear something else that's talking about the very words that came to you, or that you used, or that you found, it's your subconscious or your higher self reflecting back to you to help you flesh out those pieces, and just being like the pilgrimage on the front edge of your own spiritual awakening, and trusting yourself. And it's like we get information from other people, but the where it matches this kind of energy, which is the advice of the overall energy the most, is when it comes in through synchronicity, or when there's so much resonance in it that it feels like it's your higher self speaking to you, where you're like, I created this exchange, I created this movie that I was guided to watch, like I pulled that towards me, or I pulled this book towards me, or I pulled this talk towards me, or whatever it is. And the information that I'm giving, I magnetized in because I had the question to understand more, and trusting that everything in your life is a reflection of you. It's none of it's random, none of it is separate from you. It's your hologram, it's your matrix, it's your energetic signature, cast out in your geometry that's pulling in matches. So you're dialoguing with yourself, and you're unpacking yourself, and that's what this time is really about. But the fact that this sort of like freeze frame, I don't know where to go energy is here. It's like we kind of have to drop the mind, and drop the program, and drop the looking outside of ourselves. Or like, oh, I want to understand something, let me go search for it online. It's like, don't search for it, just know that you want to understand it, and wait for it to come to you. That's the magnetic energy, that's the magnetic, we pull it towards us. That's where we're going. That's the Lemurian energy. That's what happens when our left and our right are together, when our polarities are together. They pull towards each other. When you're in separation, you want to look outside, but the more you look outside, the further you're going to separate yourself out. So just stop looking outside and let it come to you. It can be an outside thing. It can be like, oh, somebody gave me this Ayurvedic herb for my birthday, and she's Indian, and she's part of my family, and she gave it to me, but I had been kind of struggling with like some perimenopausal stuff, and she gave me this, and turns out it's like so supportive of like those times, those transitions. And so it just came right to me. Like I just sort of put it out there, like I trust that whatever I need to support me is going to come. And because I have that belief, that's in my geometry, it's in my transmission, right? It's in my geometry. I guess that's the right word, right? It's in my energetic field, it's in my auric field. And so it's then putting out a broadcast for the match that comes in, right? So whether it's for something you need for support for your body during this time, or whether it's something you need to understand, something that's coming through for you in dream space, or just to understand the energies, or to fine tune your perception in a certain way, just put it out there that you want it, and let it come to you, and you can get out of this freaking stalemate. That's the thing, when we're moving into an energetic arena, the mind doesn't work anymore. I mean, it can, right? Of course, that's where, you have the intuition, and then our masculine, which is more linear, is going to say, okay, I'm going to help you implement that. But they work together. It's not like he's like, okay, thanks for the information, and then he goes off and does everything in the 1, 2, 3. It's like, he's like, okay, 1, 2, and then she's like 7, 12Z, and he's like, okay, 4, 5, right? They're a pair. They're always checking in with each other and helping each other out. That's how we stay in these energies when our polarities are balanced, right? So, okay, let me pull a few more. Let me get, where are we at? 34 minutes. Well, do some oracle cards here. This is kind of like my Akashic Oh yeah, beautiful. The songstress. Oh, I love it. So, and that is an 11. So 11s for me always represent that portal, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're walking through this portal into this new land, out of the stalemate. Why is it a stalemate? Because the linear, the control base, the manipulation, the strategy, the head oriented. It's like our head without our heart is just bullshit. And so that's what we're moving out of, and we're moving into integrating back in with our heart, integrating back in with that soul led path where, the information comes out of left field. It comes out of left field and instructs us in the moment when we need it. We can trust it, we can surrender. And so that's the 11th step. That's the portal that we're stepping through. That's the land, the new land that we're stepping into. The plasma field, the activated light body, how we function on the other side of the stalemate. We've been feeling the stalemate for a really long time, really long time. We've been working at it. We've been doing our clearings. We've been, just kind of crawling through it all to get to the other side, but we're getting to the other side, part of the stalemate energy also is like, well, you can't get into, this land until you do the work. And that's the whole thing with Pluto retrogrades as well. It's like, well, there's more you need to do. You need to go back in and collapse that too. And so you can't bypass it. It's almost like that, because there's something about, when I first saw this card, I saw it as justice, because the swords a lot of decks, the two of swords, she has she's like this. She has, her swords are like going in different directions, and she's blindfolded. She's not blindfolded in this one. She does seem to have her eyes closed. I can't really tell. My eyesight is not so great, but I'll post it in the comments. You can look. Yeah, I saw it. Her eyes are closed, but she's not blindfolded, But the symbolism of it is like, lean into your intuition and let it guide you. But what's also interesting about this is there's like a balance, there's like and the wings, a lot of the decks, the justice card has wings, where it's kind of like Anubis, like, do you get through the gate? Like how light is your feather? Have you done the work? Have you cleared the dross? Have you dropped your ego? Because if you haven't, you're not going to get through the portal. You're not going to get through the gateway into, this, and I'll get to more of this card in a minute, but you have to do the work. Thou shalt not pass. You can't spiritual bypass your way through. You cannot embody false light and pretend that you're there just because you know how to speak the language, or you've caught on to the trend, or you have to die. You have to go through your underworld experience, and maybe many of them. We can't, do them all at once. We do them over, we come out, we go down again. And but the thing is, we're mermaids, and we do have those Lemurian Akashic memories. We know how to go under the water, and to remember that it's there to support us, that we are guided, that plasma, that Lemurian energy field is there to support us, that we can, when we go under, we don't have to resist it and fight it and try to bypass it and play a role in a game. We can allow ourselves to be guided. We can trust what we're hearing. Okay, so that's where we come to this songstress. First of all, yeah, it's interesting because she's holding a lyre, and I always think of Lyra, the Lyran constellation, the Lyran star seeds when I see this. So I've talked about that a lot in these readings because for a while in the sessions, everybody was having some big cat in their session, and I knew it was because I understand the different energetic signatures of the different galactic star systems, and so the Lyrans have a certain energetic signature, but not all of them present to me with a image, but the Lyrans do. They show up as a cat, and so everybody was having their Lyran thing, so I knew there was something going on with the Lyran, and then it unpacked later with the Lyran Orion Wars and the dragons and the felines, but it was just another representation of that split, the separation, the split between the masculine and the feminine, and another representation. So it's just interesting that imagery is showing up here, where that healed Lyran, because she was the one that was betrayed, the feline energy, the feminine energy was betrayed because the masculine, the dragon, the warrior, the strategist, the mind came along and stole her secrets and used them in strategy for self-gain. So it's just another representation of that separation. Okay, but there it is. She's healed and she's whole, and she's sitting back in her constellation, and she's peaceful and she's feminine. It's kind of like what I'm feeling right now, where I'm just like, oh, I feel like I just got out of hot springs, and like I feel like I'm like swimming in the water, and like I'm at home in my own energy. I'm at home. The energy in this realm is matching me. It's very much capturing the energy of this. Well, the songstress reminds me of that soul song that we all have. We all have our own soul song, our own soul note, the note, the frequency, the harmonic that represents us. So there's that geometry, the energetic signature in our auric field. And until we really do that Plutonian work and face our shadow the whole way, and sorry, I'm noticing the camera again, and it's throwing me off. I'm like, now look here. Oh, whatever, who cares? But yeah, when we do that Plutonian work and we close off our energy works and we heal that trauma, and again, all we have to do is just stand there and stare at it. Just let the light of our consciousness be like that room in my dream where we just go into the lighted room while we stare at the darkness that's coming up for us and make peace with it and bring it back home so it's not separate anymore. Once we do that, we're not leaking energy anymore. We're not having like tears in our auric field where the traumas can keep coming in again to assist us, but also, it can be really nightmarish, the nightmare dreams or the entity attack, or again, everything's in service. The dark is only dark when it's separate, and when we allow it back in and we embrace it as the catalyst that it is an entryway back into wholeness, right? So again, we can't, the Pluto retrograde, it's here for us, it's here for us. It's a gateway as well. It's a gateway, and to not fear the dark, to not fear hell realm, to not fear the demons, it's all a reflection of, or it's all assistance to show us where we still have the tears and where we're still leaking energy. But once we're done doing that, then we're back in our constellation, the healed Lyran, that representation of the feline. You think about a cat, they jump at everything, and yet they're really good at self-care, but then, like, don't touch me, and my cat keeps coming around in this reading. It's interesting, they haven't in a while. But yeah, and like, don't touch me and leave me alone, and like, I want to be close to you, but I can't. That's the cat is the representation of that wound. They're really loving, and they can be even needy, but then they'll turn on you in a dime, and that kind of thing, right? It's like, but bringing that home, healing that trauma, that separation, the abandonment of the feminine, the abandonment of our souls, the abandonment, the separation, the linear, the hijack, the patriarchy, the program, the matrix. Bringing it all back home where we're at one with our own unique soul spark, our own unique divine transmission, our energetic signature that only we can put out. Well, then we're broadcasting who we truly are without all the trauma, and this is what I've been talking about these last couple of readings, because I was feeling this energy coming in where it's like we're getting so close, we're getting so close, and even now, like, starting to have those dreams of the gifts coming online, and feeling this other energy, and just that reminder again to lean into it and to unpack your own soul language and let it guide you. Let it guide you from your spiritual flame, from the flame within you that speaks to you in the exact way that you need to be spoken to, and translating everything into your own language, into your own soul signature. Because once our energetic signature is intact, then we start magnetizing in, which is truly a match to us, because we're not broadcasting trauma, we're not broadcasting the weird survival things that we did to like get through the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it was, before the energies on this planet were ready to really support awakening and ascension. All those little habits and distractions and distortions and energy leaks, they're just not going to fly anymore. And a lot of us, with that last eclipse, that's when I started feeling it, where it was like you just couldn't play them anymore. It's like it was a dead end. It was thou shalt not pass. You need to stop doing this, and then in doing that and going through that sort of grief period of like, well, what do I do now? Like, now I'm bored, or like now there's nothing. It's like that vacuum where things are starting to come in. They're starting to come in that vacuum. But just doing that work, and if you haven't started that work yet, Pluto's coming to help you out. You're going to be forced into that corner. And again, just trust yourself and trust your higher light, that higher frequency energy that dominates, that restructures everything, that transforms our light bodies into activations of our gifts, all of it coming online. But we have to do that work. We have to crawl through the underworld, and we have to go the whole way through. So might as well do it now. You're not going to be able to shut the door anymore. You don't want to keep having that nightmare over and over and over again. Just go in there and stare at it and allow your higher consciousness to carry you through. And you'll start to access what's always been there waiting, but it's like it's always been there waiting, but in a sense it's like we're at the shift of the ages, we're coming out of Kali Yuga, so it was always destined to really start influxing now. So in a sense, it's like it was always there waiting, but it wasn't time yet to see it or to feel it. So it is that perfect divine timing. Like none of us are behind, none of us have missed the boat or missed the ship. It's all our perfect divine timing. Remember, our unique expression that's perfect for us, but humanity in general as well. We didn't do anything wrong. We're exactly where we need to be. We all are in our individual journeys and collectively. We're moving through the passages in exactly the right way. The players are coming in to be the catalyst, to stir things up, and just, again, always remembering that bigger picture, because also the songstress, that's the song of our soul, it's the song of our collective soul as well. It's what has been written. It's the note that we're singing as individuals, our unique divine spark that has our unique tone, but all of us put together has a certain harmonic, and that harmonic is destined to be what it is. When we're in a fall, it's destined to be in a fall, and when we're in a rise, it's destined to be in a rise. So there is a symphony, a symphony that we're a part of, and that we've always been a part of, and nothing's ever wrong, and that's that separation consciousness as well, the judgment and feeling. I'm using this card in two different ways, but the judgment and the rejection, and the whether we're rejecting ex-husbands or we're rejecting the demons that come and haunt us at night that are trying to show us what we need to stare at. Just when demons come, just look at them. Just look at them. What I've been doing, I was guided recently. I was in this building, like a really old building, and I was in it over and over and over again. And the last time I was in it for a play that my daughter was in. And the last time I was in it, I came home and I had all these entities all around me. And the time that I was there before, the performance before, it was right after a really powerful full moon, and I had charged my crystals in the light. And the energy in that building is really icky. Like I think it has mold in it, and it just has all these like weird memories. Like it used to be a theater that the Hispanic people had to go to. Like they weren't allowed to go to the other theater, so they had to go there. So it has this like horrible vibe of rejection and separation, and there's just all this like weird energy in it. And so I just like innocently brought in my crystals, and it was like this really like upgraded energy and like high frequency, and I just had this intention to like infuse the place, right? So infuse the place. So the next time I came in, I came home with all these entities, and all this like weird energy, and I was really uncomfortable, and all I wanted to do was run from it, right? I wanted to run from it and resist it and judge it, and finally I like powwowed with a couple of sisters, and it was like I got enough synchronicities in the things they were saying to me and listening to my own intuition, right? So there it is again, like listening to ourselves, but then having outer things that kind of like give little clues, right? Where you're like, okay, I got it now, I got all the pieces of the puzzle. And so I just like funneled them up. I just felt my light. I felt my light really, really strong. And I felt them all come in, and it was kind of overwhelming because it was like, like where it was a lot of energy moving through me. And I kind of started to panic for a minute, where I was like, oh, fuck, I just invited like so much distorted energy through my vessel. And it's like, well, you can't go back now, and you just have to claim and know that your divinity is stronger than any of this. And so I just held steady, again, holding steady in that light, and all of a sudden it was like literally like a vacuum cleaner, and then it was gone. It was clear. I haven't been in that building since then, so I don't know, because that was the last performance of the play. But so now whenever that happens, and I've had other things like that where I was doing a reading for somebody that was working with an entity a long time ago. He's working with an entity. And this wasn't what the reading was about at all. This was just part of his story. But he worked with it, and it came through in his paintings. And so I did a reading for him, and then that night I met that entity, because I had seen his paintings and all this, and I met that entity, and I just did this. I battled with it all night long, and I couldn't fall asleep because it kept coming, and and finally I was like, oh wait, yeah, I'm supposed to funnel it up. I'm supposed to funnel it up. And this guy was like he thought he was like really like big shit, because he took a form in these paintings, and people would look at him, and blah blah blah. So he showed himself to me, and he was just really, really awful. And so I was pretty scared, but I did the same thing, and I funneled up. And as soon as I just relaxed, and like, oh, all I felt was that light, and then it was gone, and then I slept. And so that was interesting, because the other one was during the day, but this one, the fact that I could sleep and it was gone and it never came back, so this kind of thing. So, but anyways, it's just that example of not separating anything out and not being afraid of anything, because when we're afraid of it, then we keep it held separate, and it's like everything is here to assist us. Everything just wants to go back home. Everything wants to come back into unity, especially at this point, because we are in the ascension cycle, and we are on the rise. And I'm almost at 50 minutes, but Yeah, just to finish that thought. So it's like, just the time of rejecting and separation is just part of the program. It's part of the density. It's part of Kali Yuga. We're coming out of that. So embracing everything. And the more we can embrace everything, like, our greatest perpetrators, or, the demons that have haunted us our whole lives, we just like, like that unconditional love, that Mother Mary energy of just like come home to mama. You're all welcome here. I can love anything, and that kind of being that being a bit of a hack. So okay, I'm going to do a Goddess of the Moon, one more oracle card here in closing. So let's see what we get. The unexpected. Yes, exactly. And look at that. That's like a so 43, that's a 7. Yeah, whatever. That number's not speaking to me. But that portal of going through into this new realm. And it's interesting, the imagery here, because it's like the one it's kind of like what I was talking about with that shadow work. Like here's the light of consciousness. Like she's upright, she's in her sovereignty, she's staring off into it. And this one's kind of that 5 of Pentacles energy where she's like, I don't know if I can do this, I'm really tired. And she's like, she's holding your hand, your higher self, or the energies, and even the energies are an expression of us, because as we come closer and closer into unity, closer and closer into that unity grid, that unity consciousness, even the plasma is a higher version of you that's coming to hold your hand. So all the assistance that we have right now, and being walked through that portal, but also the unexpected, expect the unexpected, like my dream where I was like, oh my God, like I didn't know I could see these things, and even experiencing things in our dreams is a precursor to, it's the energy, and the energy comes first, experience it in your dreams. And like when I was told, plasma transforming into light body, and then a few days after that, the coronal hole opened and we started getting the plasma coming in. I started having the body symptoms, and I, and going back to that to guide me to like, okay, I can do this. I'm scared and I'm uncomfortable, but just keep going, because we have our guides, and looking for the guides and feeling for the guides, often invisible in the dream space, just in the energetics and the synchronicities, and knowing that we are supported, because and having them also come in unexpected ways, and where we're going is unexpected. Again, we've never done this in this way before. We've never done it before. So, but beautiful imagery of the guide and the support, and also in the telepathic network as well, through our soul families. We kind of take turns. Some of us might be standing in that sovereign space of the guide, or the space holder, right? And somebody else might be, while others are going through their alchemies and through their return. And so we take turns, we take turns, and we hold space for each other, but we're doing it together, because again, it's a collective movement. It's a unity, it's towards unity consciousness and truth. It's all united. We're all in here together. So you're not alone in this, as we go through this portal into the underworld, but through the underworld, actually into that expanded state of oneness and unity, where all of our gifts are coming online, and more than we can expect, more than we can even fathom, but courageously going through the dark. So we were talking about this, going through the dark. Oh gosh, when was that? That was a while ago. This message kept coming up, like, just, we got to face our shadows. That came up in the town reading that I did for the town that I'm in. And now this message is coming up again. I wonder what Pluto was doing then. I think that was when we were in the last degrees of Capricorn, actually. Pluto was in the last degrees of Capricorn, so we were kind of like crawling through that last of that, like, control, that shadow. So it's really interesting just to track the energies in all the different ways that you can see them. So I'm at 5222. Wow, 222, master builder number. That's what we're doing. We're building a new template, and we're doing it courageously. We're doing it through our hearts, and we're doing it thinking on our feet, allowing the energies to come through us, knowing that the mind, the distorted rogue masculine, is not going to lead us through this. We have to lead through our hearts, and working together with our polarities. So, okay. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that this was helpful for you today, and I hope that you're starting to feel some of this gorgeous, watery plasma energy flowing through, and maybe take a moment to tune in. And I'd love to hear if anybody else is feeling this, or what you might be feeling, because we all have different pieces of the puzzle. So really honoring each and every one of our unique contribution. And much love to you all, and I'll see you next time if I do. Okay.